In 1765, the HMS Victory became a symbol of British imperial power. In an age when control of the sea meant control of the world, this ship of the line stood as a decisive instrument of history, a floating fortress, and the pinnacle of 18th century engineering, built for one purpose: to command the ocean. Today, guided by the preserved original and detailed historical records, and aided by AI, we walk her decks, explore how she was built, and why she became an enduring symbol of the age of sail. Laid down in 1759 at the Royal Dockyard in Chatham, Victory was conceived in an age of global confrontation. Britain had just emerged from the 7 Years' War as the world's leading naval power, and the fleet required ships capable of more than simply fighting. Vessels built to hold the center of the line, absorb the heaviest fire, and endure without breaking. Construction would take 6 years. When the ship was finally launched in 1765, she displaced 3,500 tons and cost £63,176, an astronomical sum equivalent to roughly £50 million today. Launched in 1765, the Victory was immediately hailed as the pinnacle of wooden shipbuilding. She was a first-rate ship of the line, the heart of the battle fleet, designed to endure hours of punishing cannon fire and remain afloat where others were lost. The Victory's hull was built from more than 6,000 trees, most of them English oak. Some of the timbers were already over a century old. More than 100 guns, spread across 3 gun decks, transformed her into a moving fortress. The sheer dimensions of the Victory were enough to overwhelm anyone seeing her for the first time. From bow to stern, the ship stretched 227 feet, almost the length of a football field. Her beam at the widest point measured 51 feet. She was massive, heavy, and stable, not easily thrown off balance, even in the fiercest storms. But most striking of all was her height. From the keel at the waterline to the very top of the mainmast rose 203 feet, the equivalent of a 20-story building. Young sailors sent aloft to secure the rigging could see the horizon stretching for dozens of miles. She carried 3 masts, with a full complement of sails, the foremast forward, the mainmast amidships, and the tallest of them all, and the mizzenmast aft. In total, her sails covered 58,500 square feet, an area larger than a football field. Each sail was cut from heavy canvas, treated with tar for waterproofing. Her draft, the depth to which she sat in the water, was 29 feet. The Victory rode deep, giving her great stability in the open sea, but limiting her ability to enter shallow harbors. Fully loaded, she displaced 3,500 tons, an immense mass of timber, iron, guns, ammunition, provisions, water, and crew. In favorable conditions, with a steady wind at her back, the Victory could reach 8 to 9 knots, about 9 to 11 miles per hour. It may not sound fast to a modern ear, but for 3,500 tons of timber, driven solely by wind, it was an engineering triumph. In the 1780s, the Victory's hull was sheathed in copper plates, a revolutionary innovation at the time. The copper protected the timber from barnacles and marine growth, reduced drag in the water, and significantly increased the ship's speed and endurance on long voyages. The Victory is more than a ship. She is a 7-deck wooden world, each level with its own purpose, its own atmosphere, its own dangers. We step onto the open upper deck, the only place aboard where one can truly breathe fresh air. Here there is space, 197 feet from bow to stern, wooden planks polished to a sheen by thousands of footsteps. At the center stands the great helm, a wooden wheel taller than a man. 2 sailors hold it at all times, straining to keep the ship on course against wind and swell. It is exhausting work. After an hour, the hands go numb, the muscles burn, but there is no pause, no relief. Along both sides sit 30 carronades, short, thick-set guns known as smashers. They lacked long range, no more than 400 meters, but at close quarters, their heavy shot could turn an enemy deck into chaos within seconds. Nearby, suspended from davits, hang the ship's boats, yet there are far too few of them. Should Victory begin to sink, there would be space for perhaps a third of the crew at most. The rest would face the sea, and at the stern rises the quarterdeck, a raised platform where the captain and admiral would stand, the place of command. We descend one level deeper. It is noticeably darker here. Natural light filters in only through the open gun ports. When the ports are shut, either in heavy seas or before battle, the space falls into near total darkness, lit only by the faint glow of lanterns. Along both sides, 30 12-pounder guns stand in a rigid line. Each weighs close to a ton. At every gun works a crew of 7 men. A well-trained team can complete a firing cycle in 90 seconds. But at Trafalgar, in the fury of combat, British crews were firing every 60 seconds, an extraordinary pace. That relentless speed proved decisive. The British were firing nearly twice as fast as the French. At the stern of this deck lie the Admiral's quarters and his private sickbay. Admiral Nelson lived here in relative comfort. His cabin featured large stern windows, a personal desk, charts, and a chronometer, a rare pocket of order amid the chaos of war. We descend another level. Here it is, tighter still, darker still. 28, 24-pounder guns line the deck, each nearly twice the weight of those above. Their round shot weighs 24 pounds. When one of these guns fires, the recoil is so violent, it can hurl the carriage backward with crushing force, enough to kill a man if he is out of position. This is also where the galley is located, the ship's kitchen. In the heart of a wooden warship stands a brick stove. Paradoxically, it is one of the safest places on board. The smoke is drawn up through a chimney, and the stove itself is surrounded by brick and sand to contain the heat and guard against fire. Next to the galley is the wardroom, the officers' mess. Here, lieutenants gather around a long table to dine, discuss orders, and play cards between duties. It is a small island of civility, amid controlled chaos. The lowest gun deck, almost completely dark. Only dim lanterns sway from iron hooks overhead. 30, 32-pounder guns line the deck, the heaviest aboard, each weighing more than 2.5 tons. Their shot, over 30 pounds of solid iron, can punch through oak planking at nearly 550 yards. A single impact can turn an enemy deck into a cloud of splinters. But the guns are not the most striking feature here. The hammocks are. Hundreds of them hang in tight rows, where most of the crew sleep. Each sailor is allotted just 18 inches of space. You sleep shoulder to shoulder with the men beside you. When the bell rings, revel at 4 in the morning, you have 15 minutes to lash your hammock into a tight bundle and stow it along the nettings at the ship's side. We descend lower still, below the waterline. There is no natural light here, only lanterns. The ceiling is so low, you must stoop. The air is heavy and damp, thick with the smell of rot and human sweat. These are the storerooms, ropes, sails, spare timber, tools. Everything is stowed with meticulous precision, every inch accounted for. Here too are the midshipmen's quarters, boys aged 12 to 16, training to become officers. They live in tiny, windowless compartments, 4 to a space, studying navigation by candlelight. And here, the surgeon's station. During battle, the Orlop deck becomes the most dreadful place on the ship. The wounded are carried down here. In a narrow space stands a wooden table, covered with canvas. Around it, the dim glow of lanterns and the mingled scent of timber, gunpowder, and sweat. The ship's surgeon works without pause. He wears a working apron, worn and darkened by constant labor. Beside him lie his instruments, a saw, knives, needles, and thread laid out for instant reach. There is no anesthesia in any modern sense, only a swallow of rum to dull the pain, and a strap to bite down on. We descend into the very depths, the hold. Here lies everything required to sustain 850 men, for 6 months at sea without resupply. 300 tons of fresh water rest in massive wooden casks. Over time, the water turns greenish and foul. As algae and bacteria multiply, sailors drink it holding their noses. Some add vinegar to mask the taste. Tons of beef and pork are preserved in heavy brine. The meat is so heavily salted it must be soaked for hours, but it does not spoil. Hardtack, ship's biscuits, hard as stone. Often, weevils hatch inside them. And most important of all, 3,000 gallons of rum. Every day at noon, the grog bell rings. Each man receives his ration. It is not indulgence, it is discipline and morale. Without grog, mutiny. The hold becomes the most dangerous place on the ship during a storm. If the casks break loose, they roll violently through the darkness, smashing everything in their path. The crew must descend into chaos and blackness. At the very heart of the ship, surrounded by double, copper-lined bulkheads and constantly cooled by seawater, lies the Grand Magazine. Here, 35 tons of black powder are stored. This is the most dangerous place aboard Victory. One spark, and the ship would be torn apart in an instant. Security measures are absolute. Inside the magazine, everything is sheathed in copper. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. Copper does not spark. The lanterns are placed behind thick glass screens. Light passes through, but the flame itself is completely separated from the powder. There is always water on the floor, keeping the space cool and reducing the risk of ignition. The men assigned to this duty wear special shoes without iron nails. Only copper fittings. No iron is permitted. Even the buttons on their uniforms are copper. Strictly forbidden, any smoke, any candle, any match head. Even the suspicion of negligence would bring severe punishment. A wooden ship is never a sealed structure. Water constantly seeps through the seams between the planks. During a storm, it can pour in torrents. If it is not pumped out, the ship will sink. Victory was equipped with chain pumps, mechanical bilge pumps operated entirely by hand. A crew of 12 men worked in shifts, turning heavy handles hour after hour. These pumps could remove up to 1,300 gallons of water per minute, keeping the ship afloat not through elegance, but through relentless human effort. HMS Victory served the Royal Navy for 40 years of active duty. She survived the storms of the Bay of Biscay, long blockades of French ports, and the battles of Ushant, the Nile, and Trafalgar. She served as the flagship of 3 admirals. She outlived thousands of sailors. Today, Victory stands in dry dock at Portsmouth, the oldest commissioned warship in the world, still officially in service with the Royal Navy. She is not merely a museum piece. She is a time capsule, a witness to an era when the fate of empires was decided by oak, canvas, and human courage. History has left us hundreds of such moments, photographs, memoirs, artifacts. So tell me in the comments, which historic ship would you like to see recreated next? Aurora, Santa Maria, the great ocean liners of the Golden Age? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story.